Hey folks, we are back again today. We're going to be doing a quick and simple build. This one is for a starter mining rig. Somebody local to me that I did work for a few years ago contacted me, asked me if I could help them put something together, and this is what we came up with, so stay tuned. So here's what we are working with. What we picked out at the heart of the system is the Gigabyte B250 FinTech motherboard. This is designed specifically for mining. It has 12 PCIe 1X slots, additional plugs here and here for supplying additional power to the PCI Express lanes. We are only going to be using 6 of them, but there is more for expansion later. We are coupling that with a Core i3 7100 from Intel. This is a dual core processor with hyper-threading, so that's 4 logical cores, and a clock speed of 3.9 gigahertz. We are coupling that with 8 gigs of Ballistic Sport DDR4 memory at 2400 megahertz. It's a little bit overkill, but it was on sale, so we picked it up. For storage solution, we are using the Inland Professional 120 gig SSD. This is Micro Center's proprietary brand, but it is essentially a Western Digital Black. 120 gigabytes is a little too much, but it was on sale for $49.99, so we picked it up. And to process all the calculations needing for cryptocurrency mining, we are going with the Gigabyte G1 Gaming GeForce GTX 1070. Next, we have 6 powered PCIe Express risers. These connect via USB from the riser to the motherboard itself, and we are installing 6 of them because he has the funds to add more graphics cards as he goes along. And powering everything is going to be the Supernova 1000 watt G Plus from EVGA. The reason that we chose this power supply was for the 6 PCI Express cables. For the enclosure housing all of this hardware, I'm going to be building a custom chassis out of aluminum extrusion. Now, for a mining rig, most things, you don't normally make things as so pretty. Normally, you can just throw some wood together or put it on a shelf and then zip tie your graphics card so that they hang from it. However, because I have the lack of ability to leave well enough alone, I am going to be putting a couple little tweaks and, personalization to it. So here's the chassis. Let's get to it. Here we have the basic shape of the chassis. This is made out of 20 by 20 aluminum extrusion, as well as some 90 degree angled extrusion. This was all drilled and tapped, so everything is nice and sturdy. That right there is where the graphics card, the rear of the graphics card mounts, and then the front of it rests here, so that way it's not flopping around. This is a piece of 3mm clear acrylic. And you can see down here that I have installed standoffs for the motherboard, so that's nice and secure. Here we have some of the components mocked up into place. As I said, the graphics cards go here. Will be mounted here. I'm probably just going to loop a zip tie through here to keep it into place. And then I may put some self-adhesive foam here to give this a little bit of resistance from sliding. Not that it doesn't really have very much anyway, but it'll also help with vibration dampening from the fans when they start spinning up. Down here, you can see the motherboard is mounted in a reverse fashion, so that way the I/O is facing forward for easier access, so you can get into things like plug in your mice and keyboard, network. I believe we're going to be putting Wi-Fi into this, I believe, at some point. But also, this way, one of the challenges for me to do this is to make sure that all the cables are nice and neat. Now, normally what people would do is they don't care. This is just something to throw together to make some money, which is perfectly acceptable. That's all it is. It's not designed to be pretty. However, you know, I am the way that I am. So if we look at it this way, first PCIe slot is here, and they go this way. So if we had the motherboard flipped around, the first card would have to go into this position. So that way the cable would have to drop down here, and then as the cards got stacked this way, they would have to go like this. But then the power cables will be all over the place. So I mounted it this way because the first PCIe slot is here, and then they run down this way. And then they come back up to here and run down that way. So now, what I can do is the first graphics cards will mount here like this, and they work their way down like that. So that way the first cable will come down, second one, third one, fourth one, and so on. So that way all the cables are nice and neatly flowing this way. And you can see the power supply is mounted on its side. That's where we're going to be leaving it. I've decided on that so that way there's enough room, looking from this side, there's enough room for a second power supply if needed. Now again, one of the reasons that we chose this power supply was for its 6 PCIe slots. These are both 8 pins, and setting it up like this puts those up top, you know, above all the other ones. So that way, you know, everything can come out, go to the first one, go to the second one, go to the third one, and then all these other ones, like your 8 pin and your 20 and your 24 pin, can come out and easily run along the side. And then we have our peripherals that will power the SSD and the powered risers. So that way, all of our cables, you know, up top cables are up top, and all bottom cables are down bottom. So everything is going to be nice and neat and flow. Once I peel the paper off of this, I may put some LEDs on the inside of the chassis so that, you know, gives a little bit of flash, a little flare. I was going to paint the chassis, but he seems to like the bare aluminum look, so we're going to leave that alone. So let's go ahead and start finishing this guy up. Ta-da-da-da-da! All done. Plugged in, powered on, hooked up, Windows is running, and NiceHash is running right now actually. It's actually been mining for about 2 weeks now. You see everything is hooked up. Let me go over and show you some of the features that I got this set up with. Down here, you can see that this is the reason why I wanted the rear I/O facing forward, so we can easily access to plug in our network cable. Here we've got a USB mouse and then another one for a keyboard. So that way we can easily access all of this. You can even go through a DVI or even a VGA cable if you wanted to. Right now I have an HDMI plugged into the graphics card going over to the television. You can see that I have the SSD sitting right here. It's actually just held onto the acrylic with a piece of 3M VHB tape. It's on there really strong, it's not going anywhere. Plus the tension from the power cable here, which is zip tied right up there, is actually helping to hold it as well. Also, you probably noticed I did put in the RGB LEDs down here at the bottom, like I said I wanted to. Going around to the back, there's actually right back there. There's a little. See if we can get some light on that. There we go. You can see there's a little controller right back there. We can turn them on and off, change the status of them, and make them fade and blink if we didn't want to. Here's another neat little thing that came with this motherboard. This is the power and reset. It comes on a little PCB. You have your power and your reset buttons on there. It just plugs right in, like right where where you would normally plug in your front I/O. It literally just plugs in and out right here. Through this, it just plugs in and out. Moving on to the power cables. This is where it gets a little bit messy, but not. So you see right here, another good reason for having the motherboard facing the way it is, the 24 pin is back here, so we didn't have to run it around through the front, you wouldn't see it. Just come back here, it's looped and plugged in right there. Along with that is the two extra cables to supply extra power to the PCI Express lanes. And also running off of that is, for the third one, is the Molex that's powering the LED controller. And now here you can see how I ran the cables for all of the graphics cards. They all come out, run up, and just run along here to where it is that they need to go. The same thing with the USB cables for the express risers and the power cables for the express risers. They all plug into a SATA power cable, and then there's a 6-pin up here for the riser. So I made this as easy as possible for him. So all he needs to do is turn it off, take a riser, plug in the 2 cables, put the card on here, and I ended up drilling and tapping some holes on here so he could screw the graphics card down so it's not wiggling around, it's actually on there nice and secure. And then hit the power button and it turns back on. And he's up and running. All he's got to do is run the benchmarks in NiceHash for the new graphics card, and then he can start mining. As far as recovery is concerned, the way that I have this set up is I have the motherboard. I went into the BIOS and I set it to turn on power return. Basically, let's say for example he is out for the weekend having a good time, and while he's out the power shuts off. So the computer will shut off. But when the power comes back on, the motherboard will turn on, Windows will start up, and I have NiceHash set to start with Windows and start mining on startup. So when the power comes back on, this thing powers right back up and goes right back to work again. Now as far as performance is concerned, right now the graphics card is running at just under 2 gigahertz. And it's holding steady at around 61 degrees C, which is about 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And it is super quiet. You can't even hear it. Now you can, if you touch it back here, it is pretty toasty warm. I should probably put another shelf up here with some fans blowing down on the cards just to, help them out a little bit. But other than that, it is running completely wonderfully. And it's making about $1 a day, so it's not too bad for one card. And as we said, he's got it, so every month or so he can add another card on. He just gotta plug it in, turn it on, and off he goes. So I think that's where we're gonna end this build for everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to hit that like button and get subscribed